welcome back to my channel. Okay, let's be real for a second. When you stan a K-pop group, you sign up for the music, the performances, the fan cams, but nobody warns you about this part. The part where you're scrolling through fan updates at 2 a.m. and suddenly you see the words member resting due to health issues and your whole chest just drops. Stray Kids, 8 guys. One of the most physically demanding groups in the 4th generation. We're talking back-to-back world tours, brutal practice schedules, survival show pressure that never really left their DNA, and a fan base stays that watches every single one of them like a hawk. But here's the thing nobody likes to talk about. Some of these members have been through health battles that would make even the toughest person break. So today, we're ranking the Stray Kids members who have been hit hardest by sickness and physical health struggles throughout their career. Who do you think has been hospitalized more than once? Who performed through pain so bad they probably shouldn't have even been on stage? And who shocked everyone, including the members themselves, with a health scare nobody saw coming? Trust me, by the end of this list, you're going to look at these 8 guys very differently. Let's get into it. Number 8. Changbin, the Iron Man who quietly breaks. You look at Changbin and the first word that comes to mind is beast. This guy is built different. The rap, the stage presence, the gym grind, everything about him screams invincible. And that's exactly why most people never put him on a list like this. But stays, who've been around long enough, know Changbin has had his quiet moments of breaking down physically, and it's more significant than the casual fan realizes. See, Changbin operates at a level of intensity that very few idols match. He doesn't just perform, he detonates on stage every single time. And that kind of output, it has a cost. There have been multiple instances where Changbin visibly struggled through schedules, pale face, stiff movement, the kind of exhaustion that goes way beyond just being tired. His body has shown signs of the brutal toll that comes from being one of the hardest workers in a group full of hard workers. What makes his case unique on this list is that Changbin rarely, almost never, talks about being unwell. He's not the type to bring attention to his own pain, and that silence actually makes it more worrying for fans who pay close attention. The times he did acknowledge not feeling well, it was usually in passing a brief mention in a V-Live, a moment during a behind-the-scenes clip where he looked genuinely drained in a way that wasn't just tiredness. Stays caught it. They always do. And while he may rank at the start of this list, don't let that fool you. The fact that this Iron Man even makes the cut says a lot about how physically demanding life as a Stray Kids member truly is. Number 7. Seungmin, the smile that hit everything. If you had to pick the Stray Kids member who looks the healthiest, the most put together, the most consistently okay, a lot of people would say Seungmin. And honestly, that's kind of the tragedy of his spot on this list. Because behind that bright, teasing, competitive energy that he always brings to every content and every stage, Seungmin has dealt with physical setbacks that genuinely shook the fandom when they came to light. The one that hit Stays hardest was his wrist injury, something that sounds minor until you realize what it actually means for a performer whose entire career depends on his body being fully functional at all times. Seungmin had to sit out, had to watch from the side, had to be the member who was present but couldn't fully participate. And if you know Seungmin at all, you know that's basically a form of torture for him. This is a guy who is deeply competitive, deeply passionate about being on that stage and giving everything. Being sidelined isn't just physically painful for him, it's mentally and emotionally draining in a way that doesn't always show on the surface. And that is Seungmin's whole thing. He doesn't wear his pain openly. He jokes, he laughs, he keeps the atmosphere light, and then you see a quiet moment in a behind-the-scenes clip where he's just sitting there, not saying much, and something in his eyes tells the whole story his mouth refused to say. Stays felt that. The members felt that. And the fact that he came back swinging every single time, no complaints, no dramatics, just quietly recovered and returned to full force, that's a kind of strength that deserves way more recognition than it gets. Number 6. Felix, the sunshine who suddenly went dark. Felix is literally the member Stays describe as a walking ball of light. The dimples, the deep voice that somehow belongs to the softest human alive, the way he just radiates warmth in every room he enters, Felix has this reputation of being unbreakable in the most gentle way possible. So when Felix's health became a serious concern, it genuinely blindsided people, because nobody expects the sunshine to go out, and yet it did, more than once. Felix has dealt with physical health issues that forced him to either miss or significantly limit his participation in group activities, and for a member who pours his entire soul into every performance, every dance break, every single moment he gets to share with SKZ, that's not just disappointing, it's devastating. One of the most talked about concerns surrounding Felix has been his physical condition during periods of extreme schedule pressure. Fans noticed alarming changes in his appearance, his energy levels, and the way he carried himself on stage during certain stretches of their career. There were moments where Felix looked genuinely unwell and still showed up, still smiled, still gave everything he had to the performance, and that is both admirable and heartbreaking at the same time. Because the fact that he felt like he had to show up, had to keep smiling through whatever his body was going through, says a lot about the culture of idol life that nobody in the industry likes to address out loud. Felix is also someone who moved across the world from Australia at a very young age, trained in a language that wasn't his first, in a system that is notoriously unforgiving, and the physical and emotional weight of all of that accumulates in ways that don't always show up immediately. SKZ, who watched closely, saw it though. Those moments where the smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Those live streams where he looked exhausted beyond what sleep could fix. Felix ranking here isn't just about one incident. It's about a pattern of a member who consistently pushed past his limits because he loves what he does and loves the people he does it for. And that kind of devotion, as beautiful as it is, always comes with a physical price tag. Number 5. IN, the youngest who carried the heaviest weight. There's something about being the maknae of a group like Stray Kids that sounds like a dream on paper. You're the baby, the youngest, the one everyone looks after. But flip that coin and you see the other side. You're also the one who entered this industry the youngest, who had the least amount of time to prepare his body and mind for everything that was coming, and who has spent his entire formative years inside one of the most demanding environments in the entertainment world. Yang Jeongin I and debuted at just 16 years old. Let that sink in for a second. 16. And from that moment, he was thrown into a full professional performance schedule alongside members who were older, more physically developed, and had more time to build their endurance. The gap might not sound huge, but in the world of K-pop idol training and touring, those years matter enormously. IN has faced health scares that genuinely alarmed SKZ. There were periods where his physical condition became a visible concern, where fans watching fan cams and live stages noticed something was off before any official statement was ever made. His face, his energy, his movements, SKZ are perceptive, and they clock the signs early. But what makes IN's story on this list particularly emotional is the context surrounding his health struggles. This is a kid who grew up in the public eye, who never really had the luxury of a normal teenage experience, who had to navigate the pressure of being a professional entertainer while his body was still literally growing and developing. The physical demands of being a Stray Kids member, the choreography alone, is on another level entirely. We're talking about one of the most technically complex and physically intense dance crews in 4th-gen K-pop. Those demands hit a still-developing teenage body differently than they hit someone in their 20s. And through all of it, IN showed up. He danced, he sang, he did the interviews, he did the fan meetings. He maintained that warm maknae energy that the fandom adores, all while dealing with things behind the scenes that he mostly kept to himself, because that's just the kind of person he is. The moments where he did open up, even slightly, about not feeling well or being exhausted, SKZ felt the weight of it immediately. Because there's something uniquely painful about watching the youngest member of a group you love struggle with his health, it activates a protective instinct in fans that is very real and very intense. IN deserves to be seen not just as the cute maknae, but as someone who has quietly endured a lot, physically and emotionally, in service of a career he genuinely loves, and that story deserves to be told. Number 4. Hyunjin, the artist who almost lost everything. When you talk about Stray Kids and visual power, Hyunjin's name comes up immediately, and it should. This guy is legitimately one of the most striking performers in the entire K-pop industry right now. The way he moves on stage, the way he paints, the way he exists in front of a camera, Hyunjin operates on a frequency that feels almost otherworldly. But here's what makes his entry on this list so significant. Hyunjin didn't just deal with physical illness. He dealt with something that attacked him from multiple directions at once, physically, mentally, emotionally, and the combination of all three nearly derailed one of the most promising careers in fourth-generation K-pop entirely. Stays, remember the hiatus. It wasn't announced with a lot of detail, it wasn't packaged neatly with an explanation that made everything feel okay. Hyunjin stepped away, and the silence around it was loud. During that period, his physical and mental health took a serious hit. The pressure that had been building the public scrutiny, the controversy that surrounded him, the weight of being a main dancer and visual in a globally watched group, it all manifested physically in ways that couldn't be ignored anymore. And what a lot of people outside the fandom don't fully understand is that for someone like Hyunjin, whose entire identity and sense of purpose is tied to being on that stage, being on that canvas, expressing himself through performance and art, being forcibly removed from all of that, doesn't just feel like a break. It feels like being stripped of the one thing that makes you feel like yourself. The health implications of that kind of psychological and emotional stress on a young body are very real and very serious, and Hyunjin went through it while the whole world was watching and forming opinions. What makes his comeback even more remarkable is how he came back. Not quietly, not cautiously, Hyunjin came back with a vengeance. The artistry deepened, the performances hit harder, the emotional range in everything he did expanded in ways that only someone who has genuinely been through something difficult can access. His health struggles, as painful as they were, became part of the fuel that makes his current work so undeniably powerful. But Stays haven't forgotten what that period looked like. They haven't forgotten the worry, the petitions, the fan letters, the collective holding of breath wondering if he was truly okay. Because loving Hyunjin means understanding that behind all that breathtaking talent is a human being who carries an enormous amount of weight, and sometimes that weight shows up in the body before it shows up anywhere else. Number 3. Han, the mind that waged war against the body. Jisung. Han. 3. 1. 4. Whatever name you know him by, if you've been a stay for any significant amount of time, you already know that Han is not just a rapper and songwriter. He is one of the most emotionally transparent, vulnerably honest, deeply feeling human beings to ever exist in the K-pop industry. And that's exactly what makes his spot at number 3 on this list so layered and so painful to talk about. Because Han's health story isn't just a story about a body breaking down. It's a story about a mind that was fighting battles that no amount of physical rest could fully fix. Han has been openly vocal more than almost any other fourth-generation idol about his struggles with mental health, anxiety, the kind that doesn't just sit quietly in the background, but physically manifests in your body, tightens your chest, messes with your sleep, drains your energy in ways that make you feel sick, even when there's no medical diagnosis attached to it. And for Han, this wasn't just a phase or a rough patch. This has been a recurring, deeply personal battle that has followed him throughout his career, surfacing most visibly during periods of intense pressure and schedule overload. What makes this even more significant is WHO Han is as a creative person. He is one of the primary songwriters behind Stray Kids' discography. The guy literally processes his pain through music, and while that's an incredible gift, it also means he never fully gets to step away from the thing that triggers him, because the music is both his therapy and his job. That's a complicated psychological space to exist in, and the physical toll of living inside that space for years is very real. There were moments fans caught them. The members referenced them subtly in interviews where Han was clearly not okay. Not the kind of not okay that a good night's sleep fixes, the kind that sits in your eyes and changes the way you carry yourself on stage. Stays who watched Han during certain promotional periods noticed the difference immediately. The energy was lower, the spark was dimmer, and there was a heaviness to him that felt different from regular exhaustion. And what breaks hearts even more is that Han still delivered. He still wrote the songs, still went on stage, still gave performances that moved people to tears, because that's who he is. He pours himself out completely, even when the vessel is running dangerously low. The times he did address his mental health openly in lyrics, in lives, in rare candid moments with the members, the response from SKZ was overwhelming because so many people recognized themselves in what he was describing. Han became, almost accidentally, a voice for an entire generation of young people who understand what it feels like to be creatively alive and emotionally exhausted at the same time. His health journey is ongoing, it's complex, and it deserves to be understood with the full weight and respect it carries, because dismissing mental health as somehow less serious than physical illness is exactly the kind of thinking that keeps people like Han suffering in brands, silence for far too long. Number 2. Lee No, the performer who refused to stop even when his body screamed. Lee No is the kind of performer that makes you forget you're watching a human being. The precision, the sharpness, the absolute command he has over every single inch of his body when he's on that stage Minho moves like he was literally engineered for performance, and that's not an exaggeration. He is widely considered one of the finest dancers in the entire K-pop industry. Full stop, no debate. But here's the cruel irony that puts him at number 2 on this list. The very thing that makes Lee No extraordinary, his obsessive, almost frightening dedication to perfecting his craft physically, is the exact same thing that has put his body through some of the most serious health challenges in the group's history. Because Lee No does not stop, he is constitutionally incapable of stopping. And that refusal to stop, as admirable as it looks from the outside, has a cost that SKZ have watched accumulate over the years in real time. The injuries. Let's talk about the injuries, because they are not small and they are not few. Lee No has dealt with physical damage to his body that would have sidelined lesser performers indefinitely, and his response, more often than not, was to tape it up, push through, and get back on that stage as fast as humanly possible. There were periods where fans watched him perform and could visibly see that something was wrong, the way he landed certain moves, the slight compensations in his choreography that only the most attentive SKZ and dance-literate fans would catch, the moments backstage captured on camera where the performance face dropped and the exhaustion and pain underneath it were suddenly, briefly, terrifyingly visible. And it's not just injuries. Lee No has dealt with illness during some of the most critical points in Stray Kids' career during tours, during award show seasons, during periods where there was absolutely no room in the schedule to be anything less than 100%. And he showed up anyway. Every single time he showed up. What makes Lee No's health story particularly emotional for SKZ is the contrast between his public image and what fans know is happening underneath it. He presents as this cool, unbothered, slightly chaotic cat dad who acts like nothing phases him, and then you catch a rare moment of genuine vulnerability and you realize how much he is carrying beneath that composed exterior. The members know it too. There have been moments in group content where the other Stray Kids members have referenced Lee No pushing too hard, not resting enough, refusing to admit he's not okay, and the way they say it, with this mix of admiration and genuine concern, tells you everything you need to know about how seriously his health has been taken within the group itself. Lee No's body is his instrument, his livelihood, his identity as a performer, and watching that instrument get damaged and pushed past its limits over and over again while he refuses to let it slow him down is one of the most intense, complicated, emotional narratives in the entire Stray Kids story. He is extraordinary. He is also someone who desperately needs to be protected from his own determination sometimes. And SKZ feel that tension every single time they watch him perform. Number 1. Bang Chan, the leader who carried everyone else while falling apart himself. Here we are, number 1. And if you've been watching this list unfold from the beginning, maybe you saw this coming, or maybe this still hits you like a truck regardless, because knowing something intellectually and actually sitting with the full weight of it are two completely different experiences. Bang Chan, Christopher Bang, the leader, the producer, the backbone, the emotional anchor of all 8 members, the man who has spent the entirety of Stray Kids' existence making sure everyone else was okay, often at the direct, measurable, heartbreaking expense of his own health. And that is what separates his #1 spot from everyone else on this list. Because every single member here has dealt with health struggles, real, serious, documented struggles that deserve every ounce of recognition we've given them. But Bangchan's situation carries an additional layer that makes it uniquely devastating. He has been sick repeatedly, chronically, seriously, while simultaneously being the person responsible for holding together 7 other human beings, a group's entire creative output, a global fan base, and a career built on a foundation that he personally helped construct from scratch. The physical toll on Bangchan's body over the years has been staggering. This is a man who is famous, genuinely famous within the fandom for not sleeping. Not in the hustle culture bragging way, but in the deeply concerning this person is running on empty way. Bangchan has admitted in multiple Chan's Room live streams, those late-night sessions that Stay's treasure, precisely because of how raw and unfiltered they are, that his sleep schedule is essentially non-existent during heavy work periods. And chronic sleep deprivation isn't just tiredness medically, physiologically. It breaks your immune system down, it affects your cardiovascular health, your mental clarity, your emotional regulation, your body's ability to recover from literally anything. Bangchan has been visibly, seriously ill during performances and schedules more times than the casual fan would ever realize. There have been stages where he performed through fever, through exhaustion so severe it was written all over his face for anyone who looked closely enough, through physical conditions that any reasonable person would have taken a sick day for. But Bangchan doesn't take sick days, because in his mind, if he goes down, the whole ship wobbles. And that sense of responsibility, that almost painful overcommitment to his role as leader and to the members he genuinely loves like family, has repeatedly driven him to make decisions about his own health that prioritize everyone and everything else above himself. Stays have cried over this. Not metaphorically, people have genuinely sat in front of their screens and cried watching Chan's Room episodes where he sounds exhausted beyond human comprehension, where his voice carries the weight of someone who hasn't properly rested in what feels like years, where he still somehow finds it in himself to check in on the fans, to ask how they are doing, to make sure the people who love him feel seen and cared for, while he himself is clearly, visibly not okay. The members have acknowledged it too, in ways that are subtle but unmistakable if you pay attention. The way they talk about Chan in interviews, the way they describe what it means to have him as their leader, there's always this undercurrent of worry mixed with the admiration, because they see it up close in a way fans can't. They see what he looks like at 4 a.m. in the studio. They see what he looks like when the cameras are off and the performance face has been set down for the night. And what they see is a person who gives and gives and gives from a reserve that is not infinite, no matter how much he acts like it is. What makes Bangchan's #1 spot on this list, not just sad, but genuinely important to talk about, is what it says about the archetype of the leader in K-pop. This idea that the leader must be the strongest, the most reliable, the last one standing, the one who absorbs everyone else's pain without ever fully distributing his own. Bangchan has lived inside that archetype so completely that his own health has become secondary almost as a matter of principle. And while Stays love him ferociously for it, that love also comes with a desperate, ongoing wish that someone would take care of him the way he takes care of everyone else. That someone would tell him it's okay to rest. That the group won't fall apart if he sleeps 8 hours. That his worth is not measured in how much he can endure before he breaks. Bangchan. At #1 on this list isn't a criticism, it's a recognition. A recognition of a man who has poured his entire physical self into something he believes in with everything he has, who has led with his body and his heart and his sleepless nights and his quiet suffering, and who deserves every prayer, every well-wish, every please rest Chan that Stays send into the universe on his behalf. Because behind the dimples, behind the studio sessions, behind the leader that 8 members and millions of fans rely on, there is a human being who gets sick too, who hurts too, who needs to be held too. And this list exists in part so that truth never gets forgotten. And that's a wrap on today's list, and honestly, if you made it all the way to number 1, you already know this wasn't just a ranking, this was a reminder. A reminder that behind every perfect stage, every flawless choreography, every banger that Stray Kids drops, there are 8 real human beings who bleed, who break, who push through pain that most of us will never fully see or understand. We don't make this list to worry you, we make it so you know. Because being a real stay means loving all 8 of them, not just the highlight reel, but the whole story. The messy, exhausting, beautifully human whole story. Everything discussed in this video is based on publicly available information, fan-documented moments, and statements made directly by the members themselves across interviews, lives, and official content we're here to inform, to appreciate, and to celebrate, never to invade or speculate beyond what's already been shared openly. This channel OT8SKZ exists for one reason only, because all 8 of them deserve to be seen, heard, and celebrated equally, fully, and without filter. If this video hit different for you, drop a comment telling me which member's story surprised you the most. I read every single one. Smash that like button if you think Bangchan deserves a full 8 hours of sleep tonight. Subscribe if you're riding with OT8SKZ for the long run, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss the next one. Stays! Take care of yourselves the way you wish these 8 boys would take care of themselves. Until next time, OT8SKZ, because it was never just 7.